Hi, this is Mark Stallard with Little Green Man, just outside the Legislature here in Winnipeg. There you go. There is an anti-fascist rally going on here today, planned actually to culminate in just a few minutes, 2 p.m. September 9th, if I remember the date. This is a reaction to some anti-Muslim immigrant people that want to keep all Muslims down regardless of their history, whether they're peaceful or whether they're just being forced out of their countries because they're being bombed and they're just peaceful people. Anyhow, so this protest is a combination of several events that are happening. So here we go, Legislature, and I will be turning the camera on and off as we go and commenting if anything should happen. Thanks. Okay, so they're tweeting "all are welcome," seeing pretty much everybody is, so pretty much every ethnic group I think is represented here, which is nice to see. I don't like the guys with the masks, that kind of scares me a little bit, but here we go, so this is it. Hey.
Are we ready to proceed? Yeah. Everybody with accessibility issues have an issue right now because we need to get them on the ramp. We need to go. Why would we go over there? Huh? Anybody? Yeah, we're at the south.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go that way and then
Yeah, I think there's a sidewalk. Okay, let's go.
We have the power.
We have the power.
We have the power.
We have the power.
We have the power. We have the power.
Tech City don't play.
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 Our streets.
Our streets.
Our streets.
Our streets. Our
Okay.
streets. We have the power. 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 Tech City don't play. Tech City don't play. Tech City don't play. No one is illegal. No one is illegal. Never be defeated.
Something's going on over there, don't know what it is. Well, we are out right behind the legislature. The procession met with, I can't believe how many people are here. There are lots of people there, and they were greeted with massive cheers, so this is all good. I'm seeing, it looks like every religion, every colour of person you can think of, every colour of skin, all here united together. Feels good.
Before we begin our proceedings today, I'd like to acknowledge first of all that we are on Treaty 1 territory, which is the land of the Anishinaabe people, the Cree, the Oji-Cree, the Dakota, the Dene peoples, and of course the homeland of the Métis Nation. I should begin also by saying Anin, Tanzi, Buju, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Swagatam, Sat Sri Akal, Anjali Mudra, bonjour and welcome. We are diverse, but we are united, and we celebrate that diversity. I'd like to, as we begin, call upon Elder Albert McLeod to give an opening invocation. He is a member of the Elders Council of Thunderbird House, so please join me in welcoming Elder Albert McLeod.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this very important rally in the city of Winnipeg on Turtle Island. I am an elder on the Elders Council at the Thunderbird House, and at the Thunderbird House we have a sweat lodge where we provide access to Winnipeg people to experience our teachings of the sweat lodge. And as today we're challenged in our beliefs about equality, identity, race. And this is what law is doing today. Across North America, South America, around the world, many of our people are facing that darkness that is caused by fear, anger, and hatred. But in the Ojibwe worldview, humans have that ability to enter that darkness and gain knowledge from the spiritual realm. It's a foundation of many beliefs across the world, that we not only rely on human energy, we rely on spiritual energy. We believe in those spirit guides, whether it's a plant, a tree, an animal, or the water behind you. In that relationship with those elements, we find balance and we find a place for us as human beings. So I want to share with you the original intent of that sweat lodge in that doorway. Is that the thousands of years of developing a culture, a language, a science and technology of the indigenous peoples of North America has told us that we are strong people. We are loving people. And that whoever approaches that eastern doorway, we will welcome into our territory. Because we understand, from the Creator's point of view, that that is part of that person's destiny. And we are not to interfere with that. A very fundamental teaching of the people of this land that goes back thousands and thousands of years. And we have the opportunity to experience it because people like you have stood up in the last 100 years to ensure that that belief persists to this day, and that sweat lodge is still accessible to Winnipeggers in 2017. So it is a fundamental belief in the invocation. As humans of Turtle Island, we welcome all people who approach that doorway as fellow humans in this journey of life. And today you are all standing for a reason. In 1987, I was part of the first gay pride march in Winnipeg, and a friend of mine from a northern reserve was one of the activists. And he said, "I don't care if I get shot tomorrow, that I'm still going to go and march." And thankfully that didn't happen the next day. There was only 200 of us that marched that first march, but now there's thousands of Winnipeggers who are part of Gay Pride. And that really is the message to those people who believe that they are superior to Indigenous people, to newcomers, to people of color, to queer people, is that we will stand and we will march. And in the sweat lodge, our people will pray and sing and draw those spirits and draw that knowledge to us. Because one thing about Indigenous people in North America, we pray a lot and we sing a lot. Every day, night and day. A lot of people don't know that we're always drawing on that energy of creation to guide us to be human. My uncle fought in World War II. He fought all the way to Germany. He was wounded and he shed his blood in Europe to defeat the Nazis. And they were defeated. So when I see someone on Turtle Island carrying the swastika, standing beneath the swastika, that should be considered treason.
Yeah.
My uncle shed his blood in Europe for the freedom that I had in 1987 to walk the streets of Winnipeg as a gay man. And we must never forget that that battle was fought and that battle was won. And if people need to know that, they need to be told that. And by standing up the way you are today, you are doing that. Never stop standing up. Never stop marching. The streets belong to the people. So I'm getting the high sign here from Krishna. So thank you, everybody. That was my invitation.
Under the rubric of Let's Stop Hate here in Winnipeg. So I'm wondering if I could take a little video of you in which I start by saying, in Winnipeg, and then I'm going to turn around, and I'd like you all to say, we unite against hate. You get it? Okay. Let's not do a dress rehearsal. That's just a bit too much. It's a bit too much, so. All right. In Winnipeg,
we unite against hate!
You know what? I screwed that up. I'm so sorry. Can we do it? Yeah, I got it. Okay, we're gonna do it again? Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay. Here in Winnipeg,
we unite against hate!
I'm such a techno peasant, I'm so sorry. Okay, I know it's blazing hot out there, so we do have quite a schedule of varied and wonderful speakers. Before I introduce our first speaker, I'd just like to say a couple of quick remarks. Just in the spirit of what this rally is about. I think it's essential that we collectively, non-violently decry all efforts by so-called patriot alliances which seek to divide us. Alliances disguised in pacified, convenient political descriptors such as alt-right or anti-immigration citizen activist or even white nationalist. Beneath the starched, hooded veil of a laying language lies the piercing eyes of white supremacy, neo-Nazism, and contemporary fascism. And let's not forget that, and let's call it what it is. In Charlottesville, tiki torch-bearing bigots marched thunderously, mewing hatred and anti-Semitism and Islamophobia and xenophobia and homophobia and misogyny, and at length murder, violence, and terror under the rubric banner reading, Unite the Right. Today here in Winnipeg and elsewhere throughout Canada and the world over, we instead unite against hate. We unite against hate with zeal, with intelligence, with compassion, with empathy, and with love. Love trumps hate. Always. Unite against hate, Winnipeg. Unite against hate. Thank you. Now, our first speaker is known to many of you. To me, she's Auntie Shahina. To a lot of you, she's the president of the Islamic Social Services Association of Canada. She is a stalwart of this community. She has led this movement for years, this movement to stop hatred in our city, but to build bridges between communities who are ostensibly disparate but are in fact more united than divided. Please join me in welcoming Shahina Siddiqui.
Friends, I greet you with the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with all of you. Thank you, Winnipeg, for answering our call. Thank you for showing that we are a city with a heart, we are a city with a soul, and we are a city that leads Canada in social justice, in anti-racism, in anti-fascism. Some may think I'm here to talk about Islamophobia, but guess what? I'm here to talk about anti-Semitism. I'm here to talk about homophobia. I am here to stand with our Black community. I am here to stand with all those marginalized communities that face racism. I am here first and foremost for the first peoples of this country, of this nation, of this land. The systemic racism against the Indigenous of Canada is shameful, it's deplorable, and it's disgusting. As an immigrant to this country, more than 40 years ago, as a grandmother, I want my grandchildren to know that the newcomers to this land who came through the front door stand with our Indigenous people, our family, because without that, this country will lose its soul. I have been asked so many times why I continue to do this. We are here not for ourselves, but for our next generation. I want them, my grandkids, to remember that when hate became acceptable in the political sphere, when hate became loud and clear on the streets of our country, that we, you and I stood up and said no. I remember a long time ago when I was a teenager asking my father when I heard and started to learn about the Holocaust and said, why were people not on the streets? Why were we silent? Why was the world looking the other way? And he said to me, this is a lesson for you, that you never look away. My brothers and sisters, I expect you to speak against Islamophobia because that's your job. I will plainly speak for humanity, which today finds itself at odds with people who would like to take it away. Thank you.
She is the NDP MLA for St. John's. She is the critic in opposition for immigration, for status of women, persons with disabilities, and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. She is a longtime women's and children's advocate and MMIWG activist. Please join me in welcoming my friend, Nahani Fontaine.
Good everyone. It is, from my perspective here, from where I'm standing, such a beautiful sight to see so many Manitobans come together in defiance of hate. You are all so beautiful and so diverse, and I'm so proud to be a Manitoban. I want to just first and foremost just say miigwech to the organizers, and more specifically to Shahina. Shahina, who, as she said, has been doing this for many, many years, not only for the Muslim community, but for all of us, for our children, for the next generations of children, so that we can live in a truly equitable Manitoba. So I really just want to lift up the work that she does. You know, often... You know, so often now, and I'm so grateful for it, that when we start our gatherings, we start with acknowledging that we're on Treaty 1 territory. And in the 3 minutes that I have, because I know it's hot and Krishna's very anal about time, I just want to have a quick reflection on what that actually means. When we say, you know, I want to acknowledge that we're gathered on Treaty 1 territory and the homeland of the Métis. What it means is that our people, in the process of creating and entering into treaties, which was done in the spirit of love and respect and equity, and actually was an exercise in creating family, so that we lived in this lands, on these lands together as families, as equitable relations with one another. And I can tell you, like Albert said, that his family member fought in World War II. So did my grandfather, Henry Charles Fontaine. He went from residential school and he went right into the army. He was on the 2nd and 3rd waves of Juno Beach. He was captured by the Nazis. He was 18 years old. He was held for 9 months as a POW. And I'll be damned if we're going to let in this country and in this province fascists and people that are with signs of Nazism. I love our people too much to be able to do that. And I can tell you that Indigenous people will never, ever stand for that on our territories. I just want to say again that, you know, no matter if it's in this building or on the streets, I will always stand for honor and love and equity for all of our people, for my children, for my grandchildren yet to come, but for your children and your grandchildren. We are better than that. We're Manitobans, we're Canadians, and we hold ourselves to higher standards than people that are immersed in hate and fear and totally reject all of that. I lift each and every one of you up today and I say miigwech.
Thank you, Nehani. We're going to have a musical performance very soon, but before then I'd like to introduce one more speaker before that performance. He is the senior rabbi for the congregation of Sherry Zedek. Please join me in welcoming Rabbi Alan Green.
I thank you all so much for coming out in such force today. It warms my heart, and it makes me think that there really is hope for the future. Because what we saw in Charlottesville last month, it was actually like a time warp. It was like World War II hadn't happened. It was like Hitler and the Nazis hadn't happened. It was some grand kind of amnesia that people had entered into, and so heartening to see that people are here with their memories intact. I really just want to say one thing, that God has given us only one heart. If we had two hearts, maybe we could devote one heart to hatred and another heart to love. But since God has only given us one heart, let us devote that heart to the purpose for which God intended, and that is just to love. Thank you all very much.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Alan. I'd like to introduce our first performer today.
Say something, get up and say something, reggae, say something, rock and say something, reggae, say something, rock and say something, reggae, say something, get up and say something, get up and say something, get up and say something, give me love, give me life, give
Imchak.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming out, and I especially thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity and space to address you folks today. I hope, who here has been to Pride, out of curiosity? Good, good, awesome. If you haven't, please do. So last June, we celebrated our 30th anniversary here in Winnipeg. So 3 decades of the Pride Parade, which is awesome. And we're very, very excited for that, and it was a great milestone. However, if you look at sort of the last 3 decades of Pride and our movement, and you kind of look at who's benefited the most from that movement, it's people like me, white, gay, cis males. We've definitely soaked up most of that privilege and most of those rights. So this past year, we did a theme called Resurgence, and we worked with some really awesome community folks and partners and groups. And we started to shift the focus of Pride, shift it to people that don't have the same much privilege that I do within our community. I'm talking about trans-identified, queer and trans people of color, indigenous, two-spirit, bisexual, asexual, non-binary, 55 plus, women-identified, the whole list. And we made a lot of changes. And one of those changes involved participation in our parade. Now, I've been with Pride for 9 years. And I'm very fortunate that in those 9 years, I have pretty much received maybe 1 or 2 hateful emails for what we do, which is awesome. When we announced that decision, we were inundated every single day with hate and vile emails that our poor Stephanie, secretary of the board, didn't even want to forward to people because they were so bad. Very shameful. What made it even more disgusting was the vast majority of those emails came from people that identified within the LGBTQ community. So part of my message today is we preach love, we preach acceptance, and we often do it outside of our circles. But let's make sure we don't forget there are people within our circles, within our communities, that are oppressors, that are hateful, that have all the isms. And they think they can get away with it just because they might identify within, for example, the LGBTQ spectrum, but that's not the case. And let me just say this, I don't care if you're in my community or outside my community. If you're hateful, and if you're racist, if you're Islamophobia, if you're against Indigenous, you are not welcome at the Pride Parade. You are not welcome at the Pride Festival. And I love us. I love this because, you know what, at Pride, I look at the groups, I look at people that come out because we are the guardians of human rights. This building behind me and the folks that are in it, they may write it into legislation, they might put it on a piece of paper, but it's us, it's these folks right here that are ultimately defending those human rights. And when there's a threat to those rights, we march, and we ensure that no one will ever take away those rights and freedoms that we have gained. Because as you may have heard, Peg City don't play. Thank you.
Stand together, be solid, join together in hands, you know, this is what the racism and all these things are just joining together, you know what? It makes a difference, and your voice also makes a difference too, so speak up, speak how you feel, speak your mind up and ever, talk from your heart and your spirit. It's all it takes is the heart and the spirit to God.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Chef Bear. I'm the owner and operator of Ghetto Chefs. I'm a known gang activist in this city. What I found on my journey is that all people have problems, all people have these issues. What I'm going to do here right now is just tell you guys, food is love, right? All of you right here,
now there's a plug.
you're all equal. Just as we all stand together equal. Flags, it's all equality to us. Each and every one of you are a brother and sister to me. So I'll tell you right now, if you guys are hungry, we are chefing here. We have been chefing for Island Lake for the last week. I was up at Island Lake chefing there. We are not stopping. What we do, we're trying to help everybody. We don't care. As I said, who's love, who's for everyone. I have a station just on the other side over here. You guys are hungry? Come see me. I'll come over and get another big meal. Come check us out. Food is love, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, guys. Food is love, and I love food. For regional organizations as well. We have Christians, we have Jews, we have Muslims, we have Sikhs, we have Hindus, and we have Buddhists. And to that end, please join me in welcoming Sensei Tanis Moore. She's the Jodo Shinsu Buddhist, member of the Manitoba Buddhist Temple. Please join me in welcoming her.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge that we are on treaty one property, territory. And I would also like to say that generally I avoid protesting. I like to rally in favor of things. So I would like to speak about compassion and love, which are part of the teachings of Buddha. And speak in that direction as a Christian. So, just a little bit of who's one of to share a song with you. A song about an experience that I had.
Standing on Gary Street. On my own, just having a smoke.